Welcome to your Minnesota Senate, in short, with your hosts, Senators Betsy Wergin, David Senjem, and David Hann.
Hello, my name is Dave Senjem, leader of the Minnesota Senate Republican Caucus. We're here today in St. Paul to talk to you about issues which will affect you during the course of this 2007 legislative session. With me is Senator Betsy Wergin from Princeton and Senator Dave Hann from Eden Prairie, both Republican senators in the leadership team of the Minnesota Republican Caucus. Senator Wergin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm from Senate District 16, which is most of Sherburne County, all of Mille Lacs, about half of Benton County, and about a third of Morrison County. I have everything from sort of ex-urban issues on the south end of my district to reservation issues on the north end of my district. I have everything from major highways to a lot of gravel roads, so I have kind of a microcosm of the state, and I kind of like it that way.
Well, that sounds good. What about you, Senator Hann?
I represent Eden Prairie and part of Minnetonka, which is essentially a suburban district in the southwest metro area. And we have probably a lot of the issues that are found across the state, but I think transportation certainly is a big deal for the metro area. Education are important issues. And as Senator Wergin mentioned, there probably is a little bit of diversity of view on how we approach these issues, and we're looking forward today to talking with everybody about things that are going on in the Senate. We all sit on different committees, and so we're seeing lots of different legislation coming through now.
Good. And I should also say that I'm from Rochester, Minnesota. I represent half of Rochester, half of Olmsted County, and all of Dodge County. And so I, to some extent, like Senator Wergin, have a district which has certainly an urban sense to it, but also a very rural sense. And so as we represent people in St. Paul, we represent a whole dichotomy of interests and of viewpoints with respect to how our state should go forward. One of the things that we talked about a lot during our campaigns last fall was property tax reform, and property tax issues were certainly big on the mind of Minnesota voters last year, and maybe we can just talk about that for a little while from the standpoint of a Senate Republican view and where we think we might be going positionally on that particular issue during the course of this particular legislative session. So, Senator Wergin, do you have any thoughts?
Well, property tax reform can take a whole lot of forms. We all know that. I think one of the dangers that we have to be careful for as we move through this session and talk about property tax reform is not doing something that's basically a one-year fix, and then in the following year hits the property tax, people paying their property tax really hard. So whatever we do, we have to think through carefully and make sure that it's sustainable. But it certainly is a topic we're hearing a lot about. And it's probably a little bit different in my rural area than it is in.
Well, and I think too, we like to, and we should remember that property taxes are essentially a local issue, and we have local units of government that are elected, and the property tax is the major instrument to fund those local spending decisions. I think that the concerns about property taxes are certainly legitimate because they have been going up. But the question I think that we have as Republicans and as policymakers is what is the appropriate measures to take at the state level? Do we, for example, put in a cap on property tax rates for local jurisdictions? Or do we try to just make the point that local decisions ought to be funded locally? I think those are things that we're wrestling with, and as Betsy, as you mentioned, there are different approaches on how we can do that. I'm not sure yet exactly what we're going to end up with. Maybe you've seen some things that might give us some clue where we're going to go, but I think it's a big issue, and we all are focused on trying to find ways to make it better.
I think Senator Hann brought a good point up. I served personally on the Rochester City Council for 11 years, and during the course of that time, we certainly did raise levies, and accordingly, we raised property taxes. During the course of my time here in the Minnesota Senate, I don't remember really when we ever voted on a property tax bill. We do, in fact, get involved in issues about property taxes from the standpoint of local government aid. We get involved from the standpoint of market value credit and so on. And probably the great debate is whether or not we feed this property tax relief through local government aid. In other words, the state is putting money into local governments who in turn would offset their costs and have lesser property taxes, or whether or not we adjust the tax formula such that homeowners, business owners themselves get direct property tax relief. And I think from the standpoint of our caucus, we are more inclined to think in terms of getting that money directly back to, in fact, the homeowner or the business owner, and let the local government, of course, adjust or, for that matter, manage their budget in a way that is best for them. We tend to want, I think, stay out of the way of local government as much as we can, and we have our business, they have they have their business, but I think we tend to positionally to not to want to get into that.
I think you're right. I think that recognition of the different jurisdictions is important for Republicans. We think for the state of Minnesota, we think it helps all property taxpayers to understand where the decisions are being made and where the money is being spent. But I know Senator Wergin, in our education committee, we were talking about the governor's education bill in the last week, and there is a portion of property tax relief, or a version of it in governor's proposal, that essentially deals with the buying down of the local levies. It would have a direct impact in the sense of lowering local property taxes by having the state, in effect, pick up part of the cost of the local levy. So that's one way that this can be accomplished. But I think Senator Senjem is correct. I think that we want to respect the local governing authorities and try to help make clear to the public where those decisions are being made and actually who's responsible for the increases in taxation.
Let's talk about education a little bit, unless, do you have something else to add there?
Well, I was just going to add that I think sometimes when we look at property taxes, we forget that it's part of a three-legged stool. The state's income is based basically on the tax structure of Minnesota is based on sales tax, income tax, and property tax. And you want to maintain a balance so that if there's any point in the economic scheme of things that one part of those taxes goes down, you have a balance with the other two. So you do have to be careful not to overburden one at the expense of the other. So there's always a balance to maintain.